And I'm here with Coach Andrew Palmer, and we're discussing all things women's volleyball. So this past week, you played Rockford, another conference team, and you were able to secure the win against them. Using different lineups, you're throwing in different players, but you have consistent players like Hunt and Perkins. So with these players, what do you instill in them with them on the court just for consistency purposes?
Yeah, every day and every game is different. I mean, even practice to practice can be a little bit different, I think. And, as athletes, our notion is, oh, I'm going to play great, or this is what I think me playing great looks like. And for us, it's about finding ways to make impacts. You may think, hey, I'm going to be really offensive today, and maybe that's not quite where it needs to be, but I can impact the game in certain ways. So we just talk about finding ways to impact the game every day. Some days it might be your offense, some days it might be blocking, some days it might just be pure energy. So we talk about finding those ways of just impacting the game on a daily basis.
And in the preseason rankings, you were ranked around the middle for conference play. What are you doing for your team to get a higher seeding conference and make playoffs?
Yeah, I think it's really just staying true to ourselves. We don't need to be a different team every single game. We need to know what the other team wants to do and how they might try to attack us. But ultimately, how can we win the game being ourselves and being true to ourselves? So it's not necessarily about, we have to be a completely different team every game, every conference game, or every game in general. It's just about finding what we do best and holding true to ourselves.
And with your game against Wisconsin Lutheran, one of the things that was a struggle was somewhat serve receive.
Yeah.
So what have you guys improved in practice that correlated to this weekend with Rockford and Lawrence?
Yeah, I think it's really just continuing to get reps, continuing to see different things, and just working on the fundamentals and being solid there. I think it's just seeing the more balls we see, the more reps we get. The better prepared we are. So I think it's just kind of seeing more things in practice and building continuity together.
And as these games, a conference approach, your underclassmen, they're getting their feet wet.
Yeah.
What have you been doing with the stress of these games? Just it's their first collegiate games, but on top of that, it's their first conference series that they're playing in.
Sure. We don't put the pressure on. Oh, this is a conference game. Every game's important to us. Conference is how you get to the postseason and how ultimately get to the NCAA tournament. But for us, it's just about playing loose and playing together and having fun. This is a sport after all, and there's a lot to learn and there's a lot of growth to happen. But at the same time, it's a sport and we shouldn't be enjoying it. So just staying loose and having a good time with it, is really kind of been the message.
And now that you guys are having more games within the week, you have 3 this week. Besides that, are not a try. Sure. That you have 3 within a week.
Yeah.
What are you doing for your athletes just to prepare for the games that are more constant, where it's one day, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday?
It's really just kind of compartmentalizing things we need to work on, whether it's a tactic for an opponent, it could be maybe something we just weren't great at and we just want to revisit and kind of clean up a little bit. We're not trying to go crazy intense practice, we're just trying to get things done and maintain health. So that way when we get into the game, we're ready to go and we know what to expect, as opposed to, hey, we're just trying to get better at all these things and we're trying to have really intense practices. We're really just trying to focus on ourselves and what we can do better in the moment, and then take each game one at a time.
And specifically with this try against Central College and Lawrence University, with there was a new player that stepped up that had some playing time, Rachel Lucy. She was the kill leader in both games. Compared to the previous couple games, she really hasn't seen that playing time.
Sure.
So what have you been telling her and preparing her to do so that when she goes in these games, to take that leadership role and bring these kills and be that kill leader?
Yeah, I mean, for Rachel played a lot last year as a true freshman. And this year, we're getting people opportunity and just kind of maintaining what her expectation is. What she does best and not being someone else, but she just needs to be Rachel and what she can do to impact the game and ultimately how to impact the game. And she was given an opportunity and she ran with it, and she had a really good week this past week.
And from yesterday until now today, you guys are taking on Eureka. What have your team been preparing on in practice and just mentally for that game?
Yeah, just another opportunity to step on the court together and continue to improve. It's a non-conference game, but it's still important to us, and it's at home, and so that's also very important to us. Just cleaning up little mistakes for us. It's about doing the little things well. When we're just relaxed and we're playing and we're doing the little things right, the game goes really smoothly for us. Even if it's a tight game, it still goes really smoothly for us. And so just really kind of honing in on those little aspects of the game for us.
And having this home stretch, what do you expect for like CUC as a whole for watching your team?
Yeah, I mean, we'd love to have a great turnout. Today is going to be neon theme day, so wear some bright colors and bring some energy to the court. And, I think we're doing some good things as a program right now, and it would be really great to have more people in the gym to kind of witness it and have that support for their peers.
Coverage for all sports can be found at CUCougars.com. Tonight, the women's volleyball program is playing Eureka College this Tuesday. Coverage that can be found here at Geisman and also at CUCougars.com. My name has been Van Gato, and this has been Andrew Palmer, and this has been your Coaches
Hello, Cougar Nation, and welcome to Geisman Gymnasium here on Thursday night for a conference matchup for the Cougar volleyball squad. Concordia Chicago Cougars taking on the Benedictine University Eagles today in a NAC matchup. Cougars coming off of a nice 3-0 win over Eureka College in an out-of-conference matchup this past Tuesday. Benedictine coming off of a match against the other River Forest school in the NAC, Dominican University, a 3-0 sweep for the Eagles there. Both teams looking to continue their win streaks coming into today, trying to get to 2-1 in conference. Both teams have split their first games in conference play. Still very, very early on in that conference season, but both teams looking to get off to as good of a start as they can. I'm Jonathan Shear with the Cougar Sports Network. With me today is Dave Daimling. And Dave, with both teams at 1-1, what are you kind of expecting to see today in a match where both teams really, on the season as a whole, have either dominated in their wins or taken a big loss?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a tale of two teams today. It's going to be very interesting. Obviously, you mentioned it. They've had some wide ranges of kind of how the games have gone, but you take a look to last year when it was in Lisle, they played them tough relatively. It was 3-2 in the match. Concordia ended up coming on top, and now they're going to be here in River Forest. We're going to have to see how that kind of looks overall, though.
Yeah, and you kind of alluded to that matchup history between these teams. Going back to 2001, the first time these two teams played, Concordia Chicago won one match between 2001 and 2016. But in these last few years, it's been a much more split series. But here tonight, to kick it off for the Cougars, it's Shaira Marin to serve it up. And the serve's up. That'll be received by Levy. Set up for Chalky. Adler flicks that over. Set by McPherson. And McPherson with the dump. And that's going to be point number one for the Eagles. And Kiara McPherson, she's not the McPherson twin who usually gets the kills, but she's the first player of the night to pick up one.
Yeah, that you mentioned that right there. That's going to be a few names you're going to be hearing a lot are the McPherson twins. If you take a look at it, you got your main killer and your main assister, I should say. They're just going to be feeding each other all day long. We're going to have to see how that one looks between 12 and 5 today in red.
And there is another kill for the Eagles. That one's going to get tagged to Rachel Chalky. And you mentioned it, number one setter for this Eagles team, Kara McPherson, picking up the assist. And it's Olivia McPherson to serve that up. This will be set by Adler over to Hunt. Hunt picks up the first point of the day for the Cougars. That one eats up McPherson on the back row, and the Cougars take their first point of the night. That'll go back to Jess Perkins to serve it up for the Cougars. Not only does she lead this team in aces, Perkins is second in the NAC so far this season in aces. That'll be set by McPherson over to Fleming. To the back row to Marin. Perkins will not be able to get there. Point Eagles.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough one to run down for the freshman middle, I should say. She's kind of had an interesting season so far and start to her career. When she's been in the rotation, played some rotations overall, she's been relatively dominant. It's going to be interesting to see how they incorporate her, considering Venue's all about kind of getting the outsides involved. So we'll see how Concordia wants to kind of dump in the middle.
There's an ace in the first kill of the night for Knut Jones for the Eagles. 4-1 lead for Benny right now. That'll be set by Adler over to Brown. There's Fleming, just tries to flick it over, saved by Adler, set up by White to Hunt. Hunt to the back row. Set by McPherson over to Fleming. Fleming out the back row. Point Cougars. And with this Benedictine offense so far tonight, they have been running through the outside lanes for the majority of their attempts. It's really been McPherson setting up Fleming on the left side, trying to just force that through, and it's worked sometimes, but that's going to be something the Cougars have picked up on and will be trying to focus on limiting. As here's another set for McPherson. Awkward set. Now there's Brown. Saved by McPherson. McPherson with another dump off. Saved by White. Set by Adler. There's Christensen. There's another set McPherson. Owaboli. Into the net point. Cougars.
Kind of just a missed opportunity right there for Fleming. It looks like, if you can kind of see CUC's play style. They kind of have a little bit of chaos on their side of the court every time, and whenever they end up getting the opponent on the other side of the net to kind of fall into their play style, that's going to be the kind of what leads to their success in a lot of ways.
Absolutely. That was really the first set we've seen that Benedictine hasn't been in control, that they haven't been the one dictating the pace of play. Now here's Christensen from the left side, tries to place that one in. McPherson able to get under it, but not able to get it to anyone. And the Cougars have knotted this up early at 4-4. Brooke Christensen picking up another kill on her season. She's led the Cougars in that stat so far this year, and what's been an impressive season for Christensen.
Yeah, it's been a very interesting career so far for Christensen. Obviously, she's a junior, but she came in as a DS, and then ever since then, kind of developed into more of an outside, kind of able to do anything, whatever it takes to help CUC win a match.
As Cougars up 5-4, you mentioned taking on that role as an outside. That's really been one of the biggest parts of the Cougars' early success so far this season, is having Christensen being that successful as an outside hitter. That was one of the big holes, one of the big spots this team was looking to fill this year, and Christensen has done a very good job of filling that role, as that will be a service error on the Eagles, and Brooke Christensen herself will drop back to serve now for the Cougars. 6-5 lead for CUC as Christensen serves it across. That's received by Panzeka, saved by McPherson, and Eagles are able to stay alive. Now here's Livesey on the near side into the pin. That'll be a point for the Eagles.
You take a look over at the Eagles bench, they're going to be one of the very few teams CUC's going to run into that they're actually kind of outmatched as far as depth. It's very rare to see such a deep bench overall, especially in the D3 level for women's volleyball.
Absolutely, that's received by Barraza. Now Livesey spikes that one down. McPherson tries to get that across, set by Adler. Livesey again over the block. So we set by McPherson to Owolabi, and that's an errant set. Miscommunication between the blocker and the setter. That's going to go as a point to the Cougars once again. We haven't seen McPherson be flawless on the sets. It's especially in that connection in the middle between Kira McPherson and Amelia Owolabi. They've really struggled to get those sets to kill attempts off cleanly so far tonight.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be interesting to see if they're able to kind of adjust overall as we continue throughout this match today. Still relatively early.
And attack is another error on the Cougars, and dropping back to serve herself is Amelia Owolabi. Serves up. I've received by Barraza, and it's errantly received out of bounds. That'll be another point for the Eagles. Coming into today, it was the Cougars who led the Eagles in errors on the season. That serve received by Christensen. Barraza keeps it in play, and Perkins just forced to knock it over. Now McPherson sets over to McPherson, and that's the first time tonight we've seen that connection. Kira to Olivia McPherson, and that's a connection that this team is going to be looking to get in play a lot more as this match goes along.
Yeah, and you can see why. That looked rather dominating overall. If you kind of get that look from her, it's going to be a lot of immediate kills right there.
Set by Adler to Livesey, straight into the block. Barraza keeps it alive. Set by Adler. Here's Perkins. Tries to place that across, but too much on it, and that goes out of bounds. And this is now a 4-0 scoring run for Benedictine. They lead 10-6. Amelia Owolabi serves it up for the 5th time. Received by Christensen, set by Adler to Perkins. Over the block, and that'll drop down in play after being tipped. And that'll end the run. Cougars get back into the points column. They now trail by 3 as Michaela Barraza gets subbed out of the match for Lily Hunt on the front row. Adler serves that across, received by Panzeka, set by McPherson. That's going to be out of bounds. Point Cougars.
Yeah, that looked like a missed opportunity right there for the Eagles. It kind of looks like CUC's kind of favoring defending the McPherson duo, and you kind of caught them off guard there and just kind of missed the chance.
And there it is again. Kira McPherson is going to be going to that dump off a lot, especially early on in this match. As the setter, you have that leeway where the team isn't expecting you to send that over the net. We've seen her be very aggressive with taking advantage of those opportunities early on in this match.
Yeah, that's just kind of a lot of experience overall from the setter right there. She's kind of been around the block, knows what it takes to be an elite setter in this conference.
Eagles get their 4-point lead back. They lead 12-8. Looking to get over the halfway mark of this set is McPherson. Now be received by Livesey. Hunt puts that up over to the right side. Perkins just hits that one across. And the Eagles on the back foot. Here's Hunt again from the right side, down on the net, and that's going to drop down. The bounce off the net sent the ball off course, and no one on the Eagles was able to adjust in time. Cougars back in the points column, and coming back into the match to serve is Shaira Marin for the second time tonight. Marin serves that across. This will be set by McPherson. Over to McPherson. White keeps that up. Adler to Hunt. Hunt straight into the block, and that'll finally drop down. The Eagles not able to gather it. And the Cougars, they get to double digits. It's now 12-10.
Yeah, it's a big play by the team in maroon right there. Just kind of switching up the tempo a little bit. It's not always going to be that slow or super fast pace. Sometimes it's going to be a little bit of both, and that's kind of what happened there.
Marin serves that to the back row. There's Varnasdale, saved by White, set by Adler. Christensen straight into the block of Chowkey and Varnasdale. That's going to end the Cougars' possession, and dropping back to serve now for the Eagles is Olivia McPherson. Olivia McPherson, she's this team's leading server, has the most service aces for the Eagles on the year. Now Christensen from the near side sends that one well out the back line. And Brooke Christensen, she does lead the Cougars in attacking errors on the season, but it's something we were actually talking about before the game. Sometimes it shows a struggle in hit percentage. A lot of the time, though, that errors stat is going to be a volume stat, and Brooke Christensen, she's been putting up the most attempts of any Cougar this season. And with those successes is going to come those errors, as we just saw there.
Yeah, it's only natural overall. I will say that you take a look at her past handful of games, she's kind of fallen into just a little bit of a slump overall, and that's kind of feeling the weight on your shoulders, thinking you got a little bit too much that you have to kind of do for the program. And I think if she want to find herself getting back on point, it's going to be kind of just relax, just do your job. Everybody will continue to do their tasks as well, and they'll put themselves in a good spot.
Absolutely. And Cougars now drop down 5 points. It's 15-10 Eagles, as head coach Andrew Palmer in his second year with the Cougars has called his first time out of the night with his squad. Takes a moment to convene with his assistants, talk things over before heading into the huddle to try and get the team back on track, get them back into the points column, as the Eagles have started to pull away here with a bit of a 3-0 scoring run. Benedictine 10 points away from winning the match. And after this early stretch of this match, Dave, what do you think head coach Palmer's telling his team right now?
You know, his team's rather youthful overall. It's kind of just a lot of youth on the court at certain points. It's kind of just give them a breather, let them relax, kind of talk it over amongst each other, and then also by him as well. Kind of just remind them, we're a good team too. We're in this, all right? We just got to take it, slow down a little bit, relax, and just remember as kind of what the point of attacks were before the game started.
As Olivia McPherson serves that up to get us started again, Jess Perkins' shot goes just out of bounds. That'll be a point for the Eagles. Perkins thought she finally had it, but McPherson will drop back to serve once more. That'll be received by Marin. Adler able to get under it. Now Christensen from the middle of the court. That one overpowered. And that's become a common trend we've seen in this scoring run from the Cougars, is attacks going out the back line.
Yeah, they're going to have to make an adjustment relatively quick if they want to kind of come back and find a way in this set right here.
Christensen from out of bounds over to Hunt. Hunt tries to just place that one in. That's set by McPherson over to Chowker. White able to keep that up, goes straight across the net. able to keep that one up, but that one's going to go out of bounds. The Eagles able to press their advantage enough to an 8-point lead, 18-10, as Benedictine continues to storm ahead in this match.
Yeah, a few dolphin dives, from White. Just great effort, just not quite enough to win the point there.
White receives that, sent to Adler to Christensen. Be kept up by Levy. Now McPherson from the back row finds somewhere where no one is watching. Perfect placement from the back line for Olivia McPherson. Pick up another kill. That's now a 9-point lead for Benedictine, 7-point scoring run.
Yeah, it kind of looks like the Eagles might start to be kind of pulling away of this one, just kind of running away on this set. We'll see what the Cougars can do, though.
Christensen sends that one lightly into the block. Now McPherson sets that over to Chowker. And Chowker able to tip that one over the block. And the Eagles now lead by 10. And at this point of the set for the Cougars, it's all about damage limitation. And that's what head coach Andrew Palmer is going to probably talk to his team about. You dropped it down 10 points. If you can come back in this set, that'd be incredible. But the most important thing is to limit the momentum of Benedictine. You don't want to head out of this set taking a loss by more than 10 points with the Eagles already on an 8-0 scoring run. You're looking to end that, most importantly. It's all about momentum at this stage of the match.
Yeah, if you can kind of salvage anything, just looking at the scoreboard, the last thing you want to do is head into set number 2 with a demoralizing first loss. It's kind of just, you take a look at the way their schedule's been built out. There's been a lot of times where as soon as they kind of feel any moment of defeat, they just get buried early, and then they're unable to come back. And then on the inverse effect, when they're up a ton, then they just bury the opposing team. So it's going to be kind of, they got to find a way to just kind of break that kind of streak that they've been on and just find a way to still compete as we go deeper and deeper into this match.
Absolutely. In any sport, that short-term memory, that ability to move on is incredibly important, especially in volleyball where you have that split structure with all the sets. It's basically up to 5 mini games within one larger game, and the Cougars are looking to limit the damage in this first game of the match. Olivia McPherson behind the line to serve it up for her 9th attempt as the Cougars trickle back out onto the court. And McPherson's going to serve that across, received by Marin, set by Adler to Hunt. Hunt over the block, kept up by Levy, set by McPherson. Now White's going to pass that to Hunt on the right side. Hunt able to split the block and get that down. And the Cougars finally end the run. That's exactly what you're looking for coming out of the timeout.
Yeah, super productive timeout called by Coach Palmer right there. Gets the Cougs going in the right direction.
Now it's Perkins back to serve for CUC. That'll be received by Fleming. Set back over to Fleming, into the net. Point Cougars.
Yeah, if you're trying to go on a run right here for the maroon and gold, there's no one you kind of want more behind the line serving right now. This is kind of the person you want to bring you back into this match.
Perkins, like you've kind of alluded to there, Dave, been one of the most effective servers this season in all of the NAC. As now Chalker, now be received by Perkins. Now Hunt from across the court goes coast to coast. And that's a point for the Cougars.
That's how you do it right there. Win a handful of points right there. Start getting Geisman going a little bit more. And that's how the momentum starts to switch just a little bit.
And Perkins gets that over. Received by McPherson to McPherson. Here's Fleming. And that's going to drop in just on the back line. Can't place it any better than that. And Benedictine will take possession back.
Yeah, that was kind of an incredible placement overall. It's going to be really hard to replicate that time and time again, but they'll take it right there, definitely.
And those shots to the back line, they're some of the hardest shots to defend because not only are you usually not playing that far back to the line, judgment is going to say that it will go out of bounds. Is that shot from Hunt eats up Kira McPherson straight into the face.
Yeah, the exit velocity on that one, that's going to be a tough one to kind of brace yourself for. It was more so about fight or flight rather than making a play on that one.
McPherson's back up on the front row as Barraza will serve that across, received by Olivia McPherson to Kira McPherson. Owalabi's serve is blocked. Now Christensen from the near side, tapped by the block, set by McPherson over to Fleming. Marin to Adler. Christensen Tipped by the block. McPherson dumps it over, and Brown was able to react, but not well enough. And that'll get deflected into the court. Point Eagles.
Yeah, that's a really good change of pace right there by McPherson. You start kind of feeling the rhythm, and as soon as you feel it, she makes a quick change right there, and it just kind of caught the Cougars snapping a little bit.
And part of that with Kira McPherson is that high point. She's not setting from down on the ground. Every time she goes up for a set, she jumps up, she gets in the air, she gets that height, which adds to the unpredictability as the Cougars able to survive a busted play as Christensen puts it across. And now they'll go back onto the attack. Adler tries a dump off of her own, and Christensen's able to win it straight back into the block. Point Cougars.
Yeah, it looks like the Cougar setter's got a little bit more to learn on kind of those dumps. She's obviously still relatively young. It's going to be still the season's still young at this point. They got plenty more to go, but if you kind of want to add that to your repertoire, you're going to have to work on it just a little bit more.
Fleming across the court to White. Adler puts that up to Livesay. Livesay tips that over the block. McPherson to Owalabi, and Owalabi able to power that one through the Cougars' defense. Makes it 23-15 in favor of Benedictine. Dropping back to serve for the Eagles is Addie McConaughey. McConaughey puts that up, received by Christensen. Adler's going to set that up. Livesay going over to it, able to get that to the back row. McConaughey passes that over to McPherson. McPherson finds the middle, set by Adler to Brown. Brown with some heat, but the Eagles survive. And Christensen going to try to pass that to Adler, and Adler tries to go for the dump again, but it's an ill-advised attempt. That goes straight into the net, and now it's match point for Benny.
Yeah, that's one of the benefits of having a setter like Ben Yu has that's able to make so many of those dumps is you kind of get a look as to what that kind of entails in practice every day. So when you see it out on the court, now you're already used to it. You're not going to get caught sleeping in a spot like that.
McConaughey, received by Barraza. Miscommunication on the Cougars' end between Christensen and Barraza is going to end it. Benedictine takes set number one with a score of 25-15, 10-point differential. They take an early 1-0 lead. As the teams take a short break down on the court, we'll take a short break here at the Cougar Sports Network. We'll be back in just a couple minutes for more Cougar Volleyball. Welcome back to Geisman Gymnasium here in River Forest for tonight's matchup between the Cougars and the Eagles. Eagles leading Concordia Chicago 1-0 after a dominant 25-15 set 1 victory. Cougars looking to get back on their feet here in set number 2. And the stat to track for that is how much of the Cougars' games this season have ended in a sweep, whether they're winning or losing. 9 of the 15 or 14 matchups the Cougars have played in this season have ended in a 3-0 win or defeat. Cougars looking to make this one of those fewer games where they pick up a set victory.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one overall. You get 3 minutes just to kind of understand what just happened, and then set it, forget it. Got to move on overall, so we'll see how they do with that.
Now here's Hunt from the right side, taps that over the block, set by McPherson to McPherson, received by Marin. Adler sends that over to Christensen, and the Cougars will draw first blood in set number 2.
Yeah, that's an important one you're going to see right there. Just
over to Christensen, over the back line. And now the Eagles will draw even 1-1. Olivia McPherson dropping back to serve now for the Eagles. McPherson, she was at the lead of that 8-0 run that Benny went on earlier. That'll be received by Christensen. Adler puts that up over to Hunt, and a Hunt with some power on that one. Forces it past Courtney Levy, and the Cougars will take possession back. Courtney Levy, the libero of this Benny squad, she's had a good season so far, naturally leading this team in digs. She's 4th in the NAC in digs on the season, and just a couple weeks ago, she picked up her first NAC Player of the Week of the season. Only player on this Eagles roster to do so this year, as Chowker sends that straight into the block. Now Fleming from the left side, also into the block, but the block of Adler and Brown is a bit far behind, and that'll drop down on the Cougars' side of the court. Point Eagles, both teams going 1 for 1 for 1 for 1 early on in this set.
Yeah, you mentioned the Benue Eagles, their kind of libero situation. They're one of the few teams that you'll see that run 2 liberos, and it's going to be it's interesting so far how they kind of have set up that dynamic, and it's brought a lot of success for them.
Absolutely, as Adler sets that over to White. Now here's Christensen from the far side, drops that down. Neither McPherson able to get there, and the Cougars is now 1 for 1 for 1 for 1 for 1 as Brooke Christensen drops back to serve. Serves up, received by McPherson. Now Chowker just floats that over. And White will send that over to Foster. And that one's going to eat up Levy. That'll get down to the court for another point for the Cougars. Christensen to serve this up once again. And that will get just out the back line, and the Eagles will take possession back.
Yeah, just a little bit too much power there for Christensen.
And that's something that we've kind of been able to watch progress this season from the service line for Christensen, is the consistency struggles. If there's a part of her game where she's struggled for the most consistency, it is the service line. Yeah, as that's straight into the block, point Benedictine.
It's definitely an interesting dynamic overall when you look at CUC and kind of how they perform on the court. They don't necessarily have a true floor general at all. When you kind of look for hoping Adler would be stepping into that role, but obviously, as we talked about, super young, the freshman. It's going to be, she is their floor captain, but we'll kind of see how she kind of leads the team overall, and you look for the kind of experience as well from Acacia and Christensen, a handful of others like Hunt that you'll see just kind of stepping in to make plays as well.
And Panzeka will send that across to Christensen, set by Adler over to Brown, and Brown almost dropped that in. McPherson tried to save it, and it's a bit of an ugly save there as the Cougars take possession back and draw back even 5-5. Janelle White back to serve now for CUC. That'll be received by McPherson to Fleming, and Fleming finds the middle of the court where there are no Cougars, and that's not a spot on the court where you'll normally see a lack of defenders.
Definitely.
Now it's Addie McConaughey dropping back to serve for the Cougars. Serves up, received by Christensen. Adler trying to save it. Foster able to get it over. Levy to McPherson, straight into the block. Now Levy. Olivia McPherson again. Foster keeps that one alive. Now she'll go for the kill. That'll be deflected. Then deflected up into the ceiling. Levy to McPherson. Christensen to Adler to Perkins, and that'll be just out of bounds. And the Eagles win that set. The Cougars strike the last blow, but it's an errant blow. And McConaughey will drop back to serve once again. That'll be received by Rothel. Set by Adler. Eagles on their back foot. Perkins. Now Foster from the far side. McConaughey to Owolabi just has to send that one up. Now White to Adler. Over to Foster. And Foster's able to get that one down. And the second long rally in a row is this time won by the Cougars.
Yeah, it looked like Kira McPherson just tried doing a little too much there. Sometimes you just kind of make a little bit more of the routine play and then just kind of keep yourself in the play overall. But
McPherson straight into the block. And Olivia McPherson got hungry, but Lily Hunt and Jess Perkins saw that one coming a mile away. Adler to serve once again for the Cougars. Received by McConaughey. McPherson tried to get a fast set going, but no one else was expecting it. Now Hunt forced to make a hit from the far side, and that's going to be a point to the Cougars, deflected by McPherson, who was put into a tough spot, and that'll drop down out of bounds for a Cougars point.
Yeah, Kira McPherson has definitely figured out how to kind of manipulate around that new rule around setting overall, and it's clearly been working wonders for them, for the Eagles this year.
Christensen to Adler, and Perkins again. Too much sauce on that one, and that'll head out of bounds for an Eagles point. Now Owolabi across to Foster. Adler to Hunt. Hunt tries to just tip that over. Now here's McPherson from the near side. Able to make it a tough play for White that she's unable to make, and the Eagles climb back in front. And you mentioned Kira McPherson able to finding a way to take advantage of the new rules we're seeing in NCAA volleyball this year, the double touch. Another one of those is that two libero setup, which is another thing that we're seeing the Benedictine Eagles take advantage of. So head coach Jen Wilds, in her 20th season with this squad, not afraid to adapt to a new scenario, as again Lily Hunt goes coast to coast.
Yeah, I think one of the main things that they're using that two libero setup for, if you take a closer look on Courtney Levy, their main libero, she's kind of dealing with a little bit of a right wrist issue, it looks like. So it appears as though they're kind of using that second libero mainly for serving, but if she ends up suffering another injury for some reason, that would be another benefit of having that second libero in.
And that right there, you just saw a defensive breakdown on the Eagles' end, and it was a bit of an errant reception from Danielle Penzecki. McConaughey was able to get back in the center of the court, but just like an infield pop fly in baseball, no one gets to. Same thing right there for the Eagles.
Yeah, just a little bit of a black hole almost.
Now Christensen sends that straight to McConaughey. Back to Christensen. Adler to Perkins. Gets that down in the far corner. And the Cougars pick up another point. They lead 11-9 here early in set two. And Shaira Marin back to serve for the 4th time in a row. Now be received by McConaughey, but it's an errant reception. And how about that serve from Shaira Marin? That serve's going to force the first time out of the night from head coach Jen Wilds. Like we mentioned, Jen Wilds in her 20th season with this squad, but as she lets her team take a break on the sideline, try to reconvene the strategy. We'll take a break up here for a minute at the Cougar Sports Network. We'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back to Geisman Gymnasium, and the Cougars continue on their roll. Now a 5-0 scoring run. Shaira Marin sends that one on the net. McPherson tries to fool the Cougars. Now Hunt tries to go coast to coast. Received by Panzecki. Now McPherson to the back row, kept alive by Marin, kept alive by Adler. Christensen drops it in for another Cougars point.
Yeah, nothing will get you more excited than seeing one of those dolphin dives work out well for the team and getting a point out of it. It's beautiful work right there by number 8.
And some progression we've seen in this set alone for the Cougars is a shift to more of that accuracy-focused kill attempts than just the power. We saw a lot of attacking errors from those power shots. Now, Brooke Christensen showing the effect of that accuracy. And that's going to be an error on Milena Adler. Eagles pick up the point, and that ends the Cougars' 6-0 run. Benedictine gets into double digits. It's now 14-10 Cougars as Kira McPherson drops back to serve. Received by Marin, set by Adler. Here's Christensen from the far side, straight into the pin. And the Eagles pick up another point.
Yeah, a little bit tighter set than the first one. You're starting to see both teams really get into it, a little bit more exciting overall, seeing the juices flowing from both benches.
That serve will be received by Christensen. Adler, quick set to Perkins, but Vandergaard is right there to send it straight back down on Jess Perkins, who wasn't expecting it. Perkins just not really seeing the defender right in front of her, and the Eagles now on their own 3-0 scoring run. That will end. Kira McPherson straight into the net. Now 15-12 lead for the Cougars. Jess Perkins dropping back to serve. And the serve is straight into the net, so the teams trade service errors. And the Eagles back on the offensive here. Olivia McPherson back to serve for Benny. Serves up, received by Christensen. Adler sends it to Hunt, and Hunt just puts the power on that one. Slams it down into the corner.
Oh my goodness. That is a lot of sauce on that one from number 10. That
was a straight line.
That was a laser from one end of Geisman to the other.
And the Cougars now with a 3-point lead, with Benedict Rotho dropping back to serve. Received by Fleming. White to Adler to Christensen, straight into the block. White again to Adler again, this time to Brown, through the block for another point for the Cougars. And that was a great job with Milena Adler just switching the size of the court and forcing the Eagles to shift all the way over.
That's kind of that huge experience, from Acacia Brown right there, just making a big play.
And Rothel serves straight into the net, killing the Cougars' run. Benedictine will take possession back with a 3-point deficit as libero number 2, Knud Jones, comes back into the match to serve.
Yeah, just another unfortunate service there right there by the Cougars.
And Jones sends it out the back line, so back-to-back service errors again, and that one didn't hurt the Cougars as much as it could have. Brooke Christensen will have a chance to serve for CUC immediately now. Christensen sends that across, received by McPherson to McPherson. Now Chowker able to get that over, but Benedictine with a bit of a busted play of their own. Fleming sends that to the back line. Christensen tried to keep it in. And that's going to get deflected all the way to the back wall past the side bleachers. And Benedictine will take possession back themselves. Brooke Wisniewski in to serve for the Eagles, her first time serving of the evening. Now to be received by Christensen to Adler. Now here's Foster into the block. McPherson over to Fleming. Received by Christensen to White. To Foster into the block again. And some miscommunication between Christensen and White is going to give that point to the Eagles. They now trail by 2. It's 18-16.
Yeah, you're kind of seeing the Cougars tense up a little bit out of the last few points. And once we're getting farther down the road of this set, the tension starting to rise. They see the situation, see the score, and they just got to play a little bit more loose, a little bit more free.
And that's the first time we've seen that in a while. Kieran McPherson with another dump off right there. That wasn't even as much of a dump off as it was to a switch to a full-on kill attempt.
One might call it a dunk more so.
And that serve received by Christensen. Brown's not able to keep it alive, and the Eagles, after trailing for most of this set, have drawn back even at 18-18. And Andrew Palmer will call his first timeout of the set as the Cougars are slumping a little bit. They've allowed this game to draw back at 18-18. And Dave, you just mentioned the Cougars tensing up a bit. And you can kind of see there was a real shift in momentum after that first timeout called by Jen Wilds. The Cougars playing loose, kind of controlling the match. Now the Eagles, they're making fewer mistakes, and the Cougars, on the other hand, are now the team making those mistakes, forcing themselves onto the back foot when they're trying to make an attack, and it's allowed the Eagles to draw back into this set.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the differences in the players that they got on the floor is the Cougars obviously have a little bit more youth, and there's nobody necessarily taking charge on the floor, kind of just presenting themselves and letting everybody know what the situation is. Whereas you take a look over on the other side of the net, Benedictine, they have obviously a little bit more developed, a little older roster, a little older team, especially on the court. They kind of have already been here in a lot of these situations. They know their roles. They know how the system works a little bit better. And they overall just have a little bit more chemistry. They've been playing with each other for 2, 3, 4 years. It's going to be a little bit more routine, especially when 2 of the players have been playing with each other for maybe about 20 years. That helps too.
Absolutely. That's something you really don't go up against often in another team, is a pair of not just twins, identical twins. In the McPherson twins, multi-sport athletes for their entire lives, and now they're leading this team, trying to pick up another win here in River Forest as White sends that over to Foster. Foster able to get that through the block, but McPherson will set this for Fleming. Rothel puts it up for Adler. Now Foster just forced to just pass that one over again. Now Oalabi to Rothel. Christensen. Adler forced to just send it over. Another sort of dunk attempt, like you called it, Dave, from McPherson. As this rally continues, McPherson to Oalabi. Now Adler to Foster, straight into the block, kept alive. Adler able to get it across. Oalabi sends it straight back. Adler to Foster. McPherson gets it. Now McPherson sets it for McPherson, who taps it over. And after a wild rally, It's Benedictine who takes the lead of this set back 19-18.
Yeah, that was kind of one of those points where you just see a whole lot of chaos from CUC just trying to battle, just find a way to get it back over the net. And you see the experience from Ben Yu, just cool, calm, and collected under any type of pressure, as if there was any. And just McPherson just dominates on that point again.
Now Brown just tries to tip it over, but not enough on it. Another point for the Eagles. This is now a 6-0 run, and this is how we saw the Cougars fall in set number 1. Starting to happen a bit here in set number 2 as well. Benedictine just able to get on these long scoring runs that allow them to, well, in this case, claw back into the game, but then build a bit of a gap. But Foster will end that run, finds the space in the far corner to take possession back to CUC and shorten that gap back down to 1. It's 19-20 with Janelle White dropping back to serve.
Yeah, that was a big point right there. That brought any momentum that Ben Yu was starting to kind of grab right there and kind of pull it back.
Owolabi straight into the block, and the block's too far behind the net. That'll go straight down for a point, Benedictine. Eagles take possession back. They have a 1-point lead, 21-19, as McConaughey subs back into the match, replacing Fleming, and she'll drop back to serve herself.
Looks like they're just kind of talking over a small issue at the scores table. They'll get that kind of resolved rather quickly. Could be just a little bit of the timeout that CUC was hoping for. Maybe bring it together, kind of rally the troops a little bit.
And the trying to get the scoreboard figured out, and they have now. It's back to a 21-19 point difference between these two teams. And McConaughey will send that across. Received by Christensen. Adler sets that over to Foster. That'll get deflected. And McPherson with another dump off. The Cougars not expecting that one. And the Eagles make it a 3-point gap, and they're 3 points away themselves from winning set number 2. And McConaughey will send that across. Received by Rothel. No one there to receive the pass. All the Cougars just kind of opened the Red Sea for that pass. And Palmer will call his second time out of this set, as the Eagles just 2 points away from winning this set. And Dave, the Cougars really just starting to slip at the end of this match. A set that they've really controlled most of now on a 7-1 scoring run in favor of Benedictine. They're 2 points away from dropping it.
Yeah, it's definitely a really frustrating spot. Definitely got to wonder what the emotions are kind of like in that circle for CUC during this timeout. Is you see some players taking charge of the situation, kind of letting them know what the situation is. What do we need to figure out? What do we need to do? Because you kind of got your backs against the wall right now. Last thing you want to do is fall down 2-0 in a match to 3. So it's kind of just going to look like, what do we do right now to claw back into this? We got to find a way right now.
Absolutely, and the biggest thing for that is communication. That's something we've really seen the Cougars struggle on in this recent run of points. Something you'll notice a lot of that's been happening this set is on the back line, off of a serve, the Cougars will have 2 players go for the same reception. You have some miscommunication on passing attempts during attacking plays. Those are the things that the Cougars have really been doing that have caused them to sort of fall onto their back foot. And it's the things that they're really going to look to get under control in these last couple points, try and pull off the late set comeback here.
Yeah, we'll see if they're able to do it right now, but looks like it's all smiles, so they should be in a good spot right here, able to come back.
Down by 4, Cougars ready for another McConaughey serve. Received by Rothel. Adler sets that up for Perkins, and that'll end the run. Jess Perkins with some force to bring it back over to the Cougars. Elena Adler herself back to serve now. Now get across, received by McConaughey. McPherson sets that for Owolabi. Received by Christensen, set by Adler to Foster. Tapped by the block, McPherson to Owolabi. White keeps it up. Christensen able to get there. White's able to get it across. McPherson sets that over to McPherson. Coming from the far side, and there's no one there. That'll be a point for the Cougars. And that was just a really nice play design from Benedictine. Olivia McPherson kind of hanging on the back side of the court and then just running a bit of a sort of a curve route to able to get up to the line for that kill.
Yeah, on top of that, it's a really difficult kind of same-side attack you look at. Typically, you're going to aim across for more kind of leeway, just give yourself a chance, but so much control over the ball right there helps the cause.
Now at set point, Foster sends that out of bounds. And another attacking error will drop the set for the Cougars. Benedictine up to an early 2-0 lead here in River Forest. They'll look to finish the sweep when we come back. But on the Cougars' end, they'll look to claw back into this one and figure out how to start the reverse sweep. We'll be back here on the Cougar Sports Network to show you the rest of the action here tonight in just a moment. Welcome back to Geisman Gymnasium here on Thursday night in River Forest, October 3rd. Cougars playing in their second match of the month. And they won that first match against Eureka on a 3-0 win. Looking to claw back into this one. They trail by 2 sets to Benedictine. It's do or die now in the Cougars. Cannot drop another set as Benedictine is going to look to seal this one up quickly here.
Yeah, we'll kind of see what it looks like overall for the Cougars. They've obviously struggled in this kind of situation a lot this year. So it's going to be kind of flipping the script, see what kind of changes overall, or else they're going to be kind of packing up and heading home a little bit earlier than they want.
Absolutely. And kind of the big point of discrepancy you can see between these two teams so far in this match is errors. The Cougars, 18 errors in the game so far, to only 6 on Benedictine's side. The Eagles are playing much cleaner than the Cougars, and it's provided the difference in tonight's match as Shaira Marin will drop back to serve once again for the Cougars. And received by McConaughey, set by McPherson to Olivia McPherson. Now Christensen from the near side. Levy to McPherson. Received by Marin, set by Adler. Christensen through the block, and McConaughey's reception will go all the way to head coach Andrew Palmer. And the Cougars draw first blood here in set number 3. Marin back to serve once again. And that's received by McConaughey. McPherson sets it up for Chowker. It's blocked. Now Levy back to Chowker. Saved by Adler. Christensen. Adler just has to send that one back over. Now McPherson over to McPherson. Finds the court to pick up point number 1 for Benedictine.
Yeah, that just looks like bread and butter right there between 5 and 12. Looks like they've been doing that for years.
And that's because I have been doing that for years, as we've talked about a lot tonight. And Benedictine really will be hoping for that twin connection to help seal this deal tonight. As Adler sets that one up for Christensen. Levy puts that over to McPherson. Now Chowker straight into the block. Jess Perkins sends that back where it came from. And the Cougars back on top 2-1. Perkins back to serve herself. And that's received by Levy. McPherson sets that up for Vattergren. And that'll head out of bounds. Point Cougars. 3-1 lead early for CUC. Trying to capture that early momentum as Jess Perkins will drop back to serve once more. And that'll head out the back line for a service error. And send the point back to the Benedictine Eagles. And as we talked about that error discrepancy coming into this set, both teams have committed 2 errors so far in the set. But it's a costly one for the Cougars in a game where you're down by 2 sets. You really want to get that early momentum. And those errors aren't going to be beneficial to that as the attack from Hunt goes out the back line.
Yeah, it's kind of all about limiting mistakes right now. You don't want to play cautious by any means, of course, but you really do need to find a way to limit mistakes and just kind of keep yourself in the contest for as long as you can.
Cougars unable to keep that serve alive. That was an awkward bounce off the net. Benedictine back in front, 4-3. Jones sends that across. Christensen to Adler to Brown. Now McPherson keeps it up. Fleming just sends it across. Now Adler sets that for Brown, and it's not a high enough set. That one will go straight into the net. Another attacking error for the Cougars. And Benedictine will have another chance to serve. Jones sends that one wide left. So a service error will end that possession of Benedictine's. Cougars take possession back, and something back into the match is Bethany Rothel to serve.
Yeah, Benedictine kind of just offers you up a free opportunity to gain some momentum and kind of jump out there. Let's see how the Cougars kind of take that opportunity.
Looking to capitalize, Rothel sends that across to McPherson. Kira McPherson to Chowker, and the block from Brown is too far behind the net. That goes straight down for another Benedictine point. And we've seen tonight how the Eagles are able to capitalize off of the Cougars' errors. That's what the Cougars need to focus on in this set, is when those opportunities are there, making the most of them and getting back in front as they trail by 2. Wisniewski sends that across to Rothel, set by Adler. Brown, deflected by the block. Another dump off from McPherson. Adler over to Christensen, straight into the block. Rothel's reception almost out of bounds. Now Fleming from the far side, received by Marin. Set by Adler to Christensen, over the block, received by Wisniewski. McPherson tries to dunk that one, and miscommunication again between Melina Adler and Acacia Brown, and that'll drop down for an Eagles point.
Yeah, on the bright side for the Cougars so far, it kind of looks like they're starting to figure out Kira McPherson's kind of strategy of occasionally just kind of dumping them over. You're finding a Cougar in the middle every time for one of those tips, just like that right there.
Cougars able to stay alive as here's Brooke Christensen, deflected by the block. McPherson sends that over to Fleming, who just tries to place that on the back row. Adler to Brown, and that will drop down. Acacia Brown with the kill. And the Cougars back up on the board. They trail by 2 as Brooke Christensen drops back to serve. Christensen's serve is up, received by Wisniewski, set by McPherson. Now McPherson out of bounds on the far side. Point Cougars, and it's something we haven't talked about tonight, but Olivia McPherson's style of attacking from the back row, she doesn't come up. She hangs back on the back row, and then she sprints up, gets a lot of air, and really uses that momentum from the sprint to her advantage. As Fleming sends that one into the block and out of bounds, point Benedictine.
Yeah, going back to kind of what you're saying about Olivia McPherson, it's definitely an interesting strategy overall, and obviously it's working wonders. Kind of just looks like a rocket just shooting out from the back line.
McConaughey sends that across, received by White, set by Adler, and again, it's a low set. Brown's not able to save it. McConaughey will have another chance to serve. Up by 3, McConaughey sends this across, received by Christensen to Adler, who just tips it over the net, keeps the point alive. McPherson from the far side, deflected down by the block, point Eagles. Benedictine, first team into double digits. And Andrew Palmer will take that as a sign to call the first timeout of the set. The Cougars will have a chance to catch their breath and get back on track in just a moment. And we'll be back in just a moment as well here on the Cougar Sports Network. Welcome back to River Forest. The Benedictine leading by 4. McConaughey will send that across once again. Adler will set it up for Brown, flying from the far side. Owolabi sends that down, saved by Christensen. Over to Foster, tries to go coast to coast. Now McPherson sets that to her twin. Set up by Adler for Foster, received by Levy, set by McPherson for Owolabi. Out the back line, point Cougars.
Yeah, it kind of just looked like Owolabi just kind of missed that one overall. Just kind of fortunate break right there for the Cougars. She's been kind of killing them when she gets a shot.
Received by White, set up by Adler. Perkins just floats that over to the right side. Now McPherson out the back line. You don't see that often. That was Olivia McPherson setting up Kira McPherson, and the setter's attack just too much power on it, and Janelle White will serve once again. That gets across to McConaughey, set by McPherson to McPherson, and she is able to win the angle battle with Jess Perkins. That's blocked straight into the ground. Owolabi dropping back to serve once again. And that serve is straight into the net. Point Cougars, and this is one of those errors we were talking about earlier that the Cougars really need to take advantage of.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of just an opportunity right here that they are granted. It's kind of, you got to find a way to put yourself back in the contest. So you either do it now or you might be finding yourself buried later on.
See by McConaughey. McPherson to McPherson. Set by Adler to Hunt, and Hunt's attack goes straight into the net. And the Cougars trade an error for an error. Benedictine leads by 3. It's 12-9 Eagles. That's received by Foster. Adler sends it to Foster. Deflected by the block. McConaughey keeps it alive. Vandersdale sends that over. Now Perkins able to keep the errant set over. Now McPherson from the far side sends that over the far coast. Out of bounds. Point Cougars. And that's a traded attacking error. Shair Aman dropping back to serve for CUC for the second time this set. That's received by Levy, set by McPherson to Chowker. Set by Adler to Christensen, who's able to get that past the block. That's down. That's a point for the Cougars.
They're finally within 1 point of Benedictine right here. Let's see if they can kind of knot things back up.
Marin sends that across, received by McPherson. Now Kieran McPherson sets that for Chowker. Adler receives. White puts it up for Brooke Christensen. Deflected at the net. Now Adler sets for Christensen again. Too much sauce on that one. That heads out of bounds for a point, Eagles. And that serve from Olivia McPherson heads out of bounds. So the Cougars, they trade an error for an error again, and trailing by 1, Jess Perkins will drop back to serve. Now be received by Levy. McPherson sets that up for Fleming. Fleming tries to float that one in. Now Adler will set this for Hunt. Deflected at the net and down. That's a point for the Eagles.
It's only a 2-point game right now in this set, but it's kind of starting to look like the emotions are completely different on both sides. It's more just Concordia kind of realizing the situation that's in front of them and not exactly too positive about it. And Benedictine obviously having a lot of fun, because why not right now, the spot they're in.
Now Christensen tries to float that in, and she does so, finding the open space in the middle of the court. And Brooke Christensen is coming alive late in set 3. With the Cougars trailing by 1, Bethany Rothel will drop back to serve for CUC. Serves up. Received by Levy. Set by McPherson to Owolabi, and Owolabi finds the open court again. And these two teams, they're really trading points right now. The Eagles aren't able to pull away, but the good news for the Cougars is that they're sticking with them. They haven't been able to get over that hump. They haven't gotten the run they need to take the lead back in this set.
Yeah, they're kind of just hanging in the shadow. Eventually they're going to have to jump out and surprise them.
Adler to Christensen with some power. Now Fleming from the far side, received by Marin, set by Adler. Christensen again brings the Tabasco. That one's blocked at the line. Marin sends it over. McPherson to Owolabi, and another one for Amelia Owolabi, who is coming in big time for Benedictine. Midway through set number 3, they lead by 3, 16-13. Wisniewski sends it across to White. Adler sets that up for Christensen. Levy to McPherson. And from the bleachers, Fleming will just keep that one alive. Adler will set this for Christensen. McPherson to Fleming. Now Adler sets up Christensen again. Floated over. This time Wisniewski saves it. Dumped over by Kira McPherson. Christensen again on the near side. Deflected at the line. McPherson to Owolabi. Owolabi this time is blocked. Now McPherson dunks that one down. No one from CUC on the far line. And Benedictine putting together a run now. They lead 17-13. And Wisniewski sends that to White. Adler just taps that across. Now Olivia McPherson from the back row. White's able to save it, but the Cougars aren't able to reel it in. Another point for Benedictine. And as the Cougars drop down by 5, Andrew Palmer will call his final timeout of the set. Benedictine, this is another big part of that discrepancy. On the Cougars' end, 10 kills for Lily Hunt on the day, 8 for Brooke Christensen. When you go over to Benedictine, 10 kills for Olivia McPherson, Kira McPherson with 7, Jordan Fleming with 6, Amelia Owalabi with 5. It's being spread around a lot more on the Eagles' end. They're getting a lot more players involved on the attacking end, and the Cougars, it's not that they're not trying to get players involved, but they're just unable to do so successfully.
Yeah, it looks like it's been a really tough challenge for the Cougars overall to kind of deal with that and kind of make adjustments when when the Eagles are kind of spreading the wealth so well overall. It's also going to be a huge challenge when one of their top killers is their setter. Obviously, you're kind of seeing those dinks and dunks and dumps, whatever you want to call it. They've kind of started to figure it out, but it's kind of a little too late right now. And now that they're figuring that out, they're setting up everybody, whether it's the middles, the outsides. It's been bad news a lot because everybody's so involved.
And now, as we come out of the timeout, Brooke Wisniewski back to serve again for Benedictine. That one received by White, set by Adler to Christensen, deflected up at the line. Now here's Fleming from the far side, and again, the block from Brown and Adler is behind the net. That's not the first time we've seen that tonight, and that'll head down to the court for a point. For Benedictine, they lead by 6 and are just 6 points away from taking the match. White with an errant reception got too far behind that one. Benedictine now up to 20. They're on a 6-0 scoring run. Took possession leading by 1. They now lead by 7. Marin receives, set by Adler to Christensen, blocked at the line. Christensen puts it back up, set by Adler to Brown, and that will be just out of bounds on the back corner. The Eagles pick up another point. This is a 7-0 run with Brooke Wisniewski serving. And Dave, you care to remind everyone who was serving last set when Benedictine went on the big run that won the match?
Oh my, it was not good news at all back then. Oh, it's kind of a tough spot right here for the Cougs, obviously. It's kind of, yeah, it's definitely been a challenge of just overall mental toughness too. I feel like when they kind of find themselves in these slumps, they're just kind of burying themselves as well. You see a lot of hanging heads, obviously. It's been a tough day so far.
Yep, and I mean, get buried right there from another kill attempt, trailing by 9, Benedictine 3 points away. And it is a frustrating night because this is a match where it feels like the Cougars are just there. They're right there with Benedictine. They're almost at the point of being able to win these sets. But it's just mistakes that are made like those. That's really been the difference maker between these teams tonight is the mistakes. Another errant reception from Janelle White makes it a 10-point game. Benedictine 2 points away from winning it.
Yeah, it kind of just looks like the Cougars overall are just like pretty mentally exhausted. It almost appears they're just kind of scrape their way through this set and then kind of see what they'll do after. But every point looks like it's draining.
And Cougars gonna catch a break there. 4 hits on Benedictine's end. So with a 9-point gap, Brooke Christensen will drop back to serve for the Cougars. And there's no other way to put this. You need a run with Brooke Christensen at the line now. Jordan Fleming will end any possibility of that run. She herself goes coast to coast. And now Benedictine is 1 point away from taking the match. In to serve to try to end the match is number 11, Shea Baker-Watson, into the match for the first time tonight. Baker-Watson sends it across, received by Rothel, set by Adler to Brown, into the block. White to Adler. Here's Foster to the back line, received by Baker-Watson. McPherson to McPherson. Rothel saves it. Adler puts it up to Foster into the block. And Acacia Brown loses track of it. It drops down, and some miscommunication will lose set number 3 and the match for CUC. And if that miscommunication doesn't tell the story of the night, I don't know what can for CUC. They fall 3-0 to Benedictine. The Eagles move up to 2-1 in conference play. The Cougars drop down to 1-2 in conference play, still in the early phases of this season.
Yeah, obviously still plenty of volleyball left to be played this year. It's just kind of, you got to go back to the drawing board, it looks like a little bit, kind of take away what were you kind of struggling with today, and then kind of what's been the tale of this season, and just kind of overall you just got to make adjustments and keep playing. You kind of think about this one, just be a little frustrated about it. After today, you kind of got to just refresh, kind of reset overall, and just kind of move on from it. You got to learn, but you got to move on, or else if this kind of lingers, it's going to struggle the rest of the way through conference play.
Absolutely, and it's something you actually talked about during the game, Dave, is the youth on this Concordia squad. This is a young team, so you see this, a team with a lot of new elements will figure themselves out during out of conference, but there's always a shift once you get into conference play to that more level playing field, and that's what we're seeing from the Cougars now. 1-2 in conference. We'll look at some of your stats on the night. For both teams, your kills leader was with 10. Lily Hunt from the Cougars, Olivia McPherson over on Benedictine, both with 10 kills. Second on Benedictine in kills was Jordan Fleming. She picked up 9 on the night. The leading assister of the evening was Kira McPherson, the other part of that twin duo that was a major part of this Benedictine victory tonight. On the Cougars end, Milena Adler playing that setter role once again for CUC. On the defensive end, Janelle White leading the team with 16 digs, tied with Courtney Levy for the match lead over on Benedictine's end. But that'll do it from Cougar Volleyball here tonight. For your Cougar Sports Network, helping out with us tonight on the scoreboard was Courtney Schneider and Grace King, Tyler Dorsch and Lindley Southern, Luciana Moran Cruz working cameras tonight. Peter Borkowski down on the court taking photos for us tonight. We're under the direction of our assistant and head sports information directors Corey Welch and Kayla McLeod. I'm Jonathan Shear, once again with you here with Dave Dimling. Thank you for joining us for tonight's matchup and showing of Concordia Chicago Volleyball. That's not it for Concordia Volleyball this week. However, the Cougars will be back in action this Saturday here in River Forest. We're going to get back on track with another conference matchup against the St. Norbert's College Green Knights. But I'll do it here tonight on October 3rd. Cougars fall 3-0. They get swept by the Eagles. Looking to get back on track this Saturday. Make sure to join us then on the Cougar Sports Network. Once again, I'm Jonathan Shear here with Dave Dimling. Thank you for joining us tonight. And as we close tonight, as always, roll Cougs.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's Concordia University Chicago Cougars Athletics broadcast. We hope to see you on campus very soon. If you would like to learn more about what Concordia Chicago has to offer, go to cuchicago.edu.